your butt.
And that's how he ends it. He just, congratulations, and Oregon's going to kick your butt. So there you go. For people that are pronouncing the phonetic back end of that wrong, now you've been corrected. But and thank you for the call. Hey, I think it's cool that somebody in Oregon was listening to the show and gave us their feedback. I'd love to hear from you guys. As I said, hit us up on the phones, not just right this second, but anytime throughout the next week. 216-539-7535. Let us know your thoughts. Who's going to win the game? Where are you coming from? Bucks and Ducks. As I said, we're going to talk about that in a few with Dan Wismar. Quickly, I'll get into it more. They just put out the uniforms this just a little bit right before we went on the air. Released the uniforms that the two teams are going to wear in the national title game, and Ohio State's is slick, but Oregon's not wearing any. It's a completely different uniform than what they've worn. It's not. It doesn't even have the green. I thought for sure they'd be in one of those neon, fantastic, fandango deals that they wear. No, it's white, grayish, black scheme. I didn't see any green on the photo at all. Completely different than the traditional Oregon look. And I see the scarlet jersey for Ohio State. We'll talk more about that with Dan here coming up in a little bit as we talk some Buckeyes football. But NFL football over the weekend as Wild Card Weekend got rolling, and a good one here. Some surprises, I guess, for some people. Let's start back looking at Saturday's games, and the big one, of course, the night game, the AFC North teams, the Ravens and the Steelers. I did not get it, not that I would have cared. I told you guys on Friday. It was somebody upstairs was looking out for me this weekend, because the one game that I was preoccupied and was unable to watch live was the Ravens and the Steelers, which was the one I had the least interest in forcing myself to watch, even though I anticipated a good football game. Obviously, it's two teams that I'm not very fond of, clearly, here in the Ravens and the Steelers. Ravens put 3 consecutive 10-point quarters together in the second, third, and fourth quarter, and really Pittsburgh really was handled pretty much from one end of this game through the other. 30-17 was the final score. Joe Flacco had a good game. I'll tell you what, Roethlisberger, for a second there, with the four-set fumble and then the touchdown right afterwards, because I did get a chance. Of course, I'm up in PA, so they had to have a TV. Couldn't get them to all season long. If I needed a Browns highlight on the screen, I couldn't get, hey, I do sports talk. Anybody want to help me? Oh, we don't get that channel. They didn't have any problem getting the Steelers game the other day, though I gave them hell for that one throughout the game. But I did get a chance to see maybe like 5 minutes of the game here and there as I was getting my eye split open and all that other crazy stuff this weekend. I did see the fumble, and then boom, was it one play later? Or it appeared one play to me. Maybe there was more than one play there, but they got the pass downfield to Brown. And I thought maybe Antonio Brown, big catch. I thought maybe Pittsburgh would work their way back into it. But, hey, give Baltimore credit, and their season will end next week, so I'm only going to give them credit for a moment. But give them credit. They haven't played tremendously well on the road. Went on the road. Tough place to win, Pittsburgh, and they did just that. And so Baltimore advances there with that one. And I do got to say this, and again, it hurts me to say anything good about anybody in those organizations. But hey, Joe Flacco's a class act. I don't know if you guys heard, has nothing to do with football, but he was it Friday or Saturday? I believe it was Friday night before the game. The Ravens were already in Pittsburgh for the weekend, and Joe Flacco went to a local restaurant in Pittsburgh, and I believe his check was $203. His tip was $150. He left a $150 tip on a $200 dinner tab. And I said, man, I'm just saying, you sign $100 and whatever million in the offseason. I'm not exactly calling you a philanthropist, but when you hear tales about crazy parties. I remember a couple years ago, it was LeBron and his guys, they spent like $1,000 in Vegas, tipped the lady like $30 or something like that. And, But anyways, you hear about that kind of stuff all the time. The little cheesy tips and, exactly. Floyd Mayweather, yeah. But $150 on 203, it's like a 75% tip or something like that. Maybe my math is just a little off, but I know it's got to be close to 70% there, 75%. That's a heck of a deal. So I thought that was pretty classy there, man. Coming off the holidays, some server just made a payment on the... Made a payment on you guys over there. Floyd tips on service. Vashon's funny in the chat room. 72%. Thank you, Larry. I was close. I said between 70 and 75. That's a 72% tip, man. But that's a class act. Somebody paid their credit card bill from Christmas, or somebody paid something. Server had a good one there because of that. So I thought that was a class act, man. It's a shame that he wears the black jersey of those fellas over there. And it's also a shame that his season will come to an end next week when he takes on the top-seeded New England Patriots. That's going to be next weekend's games are going to be good. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I expect that to be the end for Baltimore. Hey, more power to them if they can go there and take care of that business. Speaking of going and taking care of business, Arizona disappointed me. Jeff Gorman was absolutely right about that one. You guys in the chat room arguing about bad tippers in sports, man. I gotta love it. Some people, I swear, there's some people that just argue to argue. I'm just saying. Sometimes people argue just to argue, man. I still have to mute the mic every once in a while. I'm still dealing with the after effects of that viral infection in my lungs. But anyways, I was wrong. Jeff Gorman was right about the other game Saturday. Carolina continues to be hot as now they take their 7-8-1 record, well, technically 8-8-1 if you count the postseason, into the next round as they took care of business at home, 27-16 over the Arizona Cardinals. I really thought Arizona was going to play better, but I mean, when you have absolutely historically horrendous play at the in the offense in general and at the quarterback position, as we know what they've dealt with. We talked about how amazing it was that they were able to keep that squad together with the quarterback issues in and out. It all was exposed. It was completely exposed, and Lindley was toast. Intercepted twice, sacked 4 times. Arizona managed an incredible 12 yards of offense in the second half. That's historic. That's a historic low for the game. The Cardinals got 78 yards of offense. 78 offensive yards. Unbelievable. I don't know if it's... Carolina's played good defense the last month to get themselves into this position, but I don't know how much of that's Carolina, how much of that's Arizona. I don't know. You're more than welcome to figure that out. Jonathan Stewart got going against a defense that has been strong this season. They weren't there. Stewart had $1.25 and a touchdown. Cam Newton did well. The Carolina Panthers won that football game, plain and simple. It was a record. Fewest yards in a postseason game. Actually, erased the Cleveland Browns from 1958 from this negative record in the books. The previous record for fewest yards in a postseason game was 86 yards back in 1958. That record was erased here with the Arizona Cardinals performance here in this one. And the Cardinals season is done. Bruce Arians' season is done. Meanwhile, Carolina moving on to the next round of the playoffs, and they'll continue on. They've been in playoff mode for a month now, 5 weeks now, as they've now won 5 in a row to head into the divisional round of action. So congratulations to them. And like I said, I was wrong. Jeff Gorman had both of those games. I went with the opposite. I was completely wiped out on Saturday's games, and so Jeff Gorman had nailed both of those. But Arizona, man, record abysmal offensive performance there against Carolina, and Cam gets the win there and gets the playoff victory. Speaking of, now that brings up a sad subject for some people, because you go to the next day's action and another playoff game, another playoff loss for the Cincinnati Bengals, for Marvin Lewis, for Andy Dalton. And I'll tell you what, I can't lie. Even I was talking to some Browns fans over the weekend, some different social media, and I was in one of the groups. This wasn't even a conversation that I was trying to be a part of, and I had to step in and go, excuse me. Somebody was trying to troll a Bengals fan. And hey, laugh at them all you want. I mean, they wiped out again, but the way this guy said it, and I can't even think of his name, it's not even worth it. He's just a guy. And I'll tell you what, absolutely. No, Larry, that's where I'm going. Larry in the chat room just said Bengals are consistent at least. And you're right, they get there. Because some guy was like, well, I'd rather not make the playoffs for 12 years than lose in the first round every year. And I said, no. Sorry, excuse me. I disagree with you there. I'm not saying that I'm signing up to lose in the first round of the playoffs every year, but that's a stupid statement that you just made right there, man. You'd rather not make them at all than make them and lose in them, I guess. I guess that's you know what? I don't understand the mindset of some people sometimes, but I had somebody jump in and say, oh, well, how could you stick up for the Bengals? I'm like, how do you construe that as sticking up for? It's sticking up for the fact that what you just said was slightly not the most intelligent statement that I've ever heard. I would much rather lose every year in the first round of the playoffs than not make the playoffs at all. And if you want to argue that with me, then you live in this crazy Cleveland sports world, I guess, man, because that's stupid. But whatever, man. Hey, the same people argue with me that, who cares about winning games? The season's lost. Let's throw everything away until the team decides that the season's lost or we're going to throw it away. Then they're the worst owner, worst general manager, worst players. We need to throw them all away. But if you decide that the season's worthless, it's okay to throw it all away. When you make that decision, it's okay. When the team makes that decision, it's a criminal element and there should be fraud investigations. Some people's thought process just absolutely drive me crazy in that at all. And again, this is a Browns fan that I was going back and forth with there. I'm like, my brother, man, this has nothing to do with the Browns and the Steelers or anything, the Bengals, any of that stuff, man. This just has to do with, hey, what you said makes no sense at all. I'm not saying that it's a good thing to get in and lose every year. And I'll tell you what's amazing is you get into that situation like we saw with San Francisco. You're going to have a similar deal here. It seems like they have this every offseason, this conversation in Cincinnati. Marvin Lewis coming off of another season where he got his team a good season, got him into the playoffs. And you know what? Look at the guys that were out yesterday, too, for Cincinnati. I mean, that's a tough one to overcome for any team there when you lose a bunch of your weapons heading into the game, heading into a big game like that. And you've got to have as many weapons as you can against the Indianapolis Colts and what they're able to do. But, again, they're going to sit into another offseason with questions already being asked. Marvin Lewis is sitting at the press conference already dealing in the post-game press conference with, what do you think's going to happen? I don't know. I hope that I don't have anything to worry about, but he doesn't know because he knows that that's a real question that is going to be out there until the organization decides, and they may decide that they want to go in a different direction. Again, a part of me, when you're that stable, says you don't mess around with that, man. But there's other people that go, oh, well, you got to make changes. And those are the same people that say, oh, well, you got to move the winning quarterback out of the way because he's not winning good enough. You got to move this guy out of the way because he's not doing it good enough. Same thing there. Be careful what you wish for. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And I don't think Marvin Lewis is the greatest coach or anything like that. I'm not doing that. But, stable franchises, stability, there's good things to be said for that. And, again, there's ways to make changes without making that. But then, again, you can't change all the players. And as I said, ownership gets tired. Ownership gets antsy. Ownership wants to move on. But looking at San Francisco, looking at those situations where you get a guy, we see them here a lot more frequently where organizations will be frustrated quickly and they'll scrap a coach with a winning record, scrap a coach coming off of a playoff win. Like that stuff used to be unheard of where it's like, well, okay, we just work on building and improving what we did the year before. But now it's what have you done for me now? Boom. And if you didn't do it now, the bad organizations move on and again. And then I think you look at Chicago, then I think you regret. Now, maybe they don't regret the moving on from Lovie Smith, but they definitely regret going from a veteran type stable situation to a rookie situation. I think they learned there, as some franchises do. That was culture shock for them. They're like, wait a minute, this unprofessional stuff is not what we're used to. It has nothing to do with the X's and O's on the field as well. So I'll tell you, I don't care. Tear apart your franchise if you want, Cincinnati, but I tread lightly when you come to a position